Did you know that the greatest terror in Jurassic Park is not the dinosaurs but humanity itself? A park made to amaze becomes a nightmare of survival, where science and chaos brutally collide. And if you were trapped there, surrounded by intelligent and relentless predators, would you know how to escape? Discover the secrets, the lessons and the true horror behind the classic that redefined cinema, and prepare to question the price of human ambition. Are you ready to face the true terror of Jurassic Park? The scariest moments in Jurassic Park. What if the ground began to shake beneath your feet, warning you that something immense and deadly was about to emerge? That's exactly how Steven Spielberg marked one of the most iconic moments in cinema. On a rainy, intense night, the Tyrannosaurus Rex escapes from its enclosure. It all begins almost subtly, with vibrations in the water in a glass. But this simple detail turns into pure anxiety, culminating in the deafening roar that announces chaos. Spielberg doesn't just show the terror, he makes it grow deep inside, where the viewer feels the fear before even seeing it. As the park collapses, the threat is not just physical, it's psychological. The kitchen scene with the velociraptors lurking is a brilliant example of this. The children, Lex and Tim, hide desperately while the predators explore the environment. The climax, it happens when a reflex tricks the velociraptors, creating a false hope of safety. It's a sequence that holds the audience's breath as they wonder if and how the children will escape. The genius here is in the detail. Spielberg uses silence as much as sound to amplify the terror. But not all fear comes from the darkness or the unknown. Sometimes, the horror is revealed in the light of day, as in the scene where Dennis Nedry encounters the Dilophosaurus. The encounter begins in an almost comical way, with the character disdaining the small creature. However, in the blink of an eye, the dinosaur's behavior changes. The attack is ferocious, but it is the poisonous spray, unexpected and brutal, that leaves the audience horrified. This scene reflects human arrogance confronted by the brutality of nature, a recurring theme in Jurassic Park. And what about the moment when the security systems fail, unleashing chaos in the park? The vulnerability of the characters is palpable. The danger does not come only from the carnivores, the environment itself becomes hostile. Spielberg perfectly captures the feeling of powerlessness, making the audience share the same sense of helplessness as the characters. Here, technology, once seen as an advance, is revealed as a trap that amplifies the disaster. As the story progresses, the true horror emerges, the complete collapse of order. Every dinosaur, every chase and every scream represents not only danger, but the failure of a once brilliant idea. The final scene, where humans and dinosaurs fight for survival, encapsulates this ruin. The message is clear. You cannot control nature, you can only survive it. Spielberg ends the film with a quiet but profound reflection on the consequences of unbridled ambition. And at the end, a disturbing question remains. If this were to happen in real life, would we be prepared to deal with the horror of a Jurassic Park? This uneasiness remains with the viewer, a reminder of what happens when science and ambition exceed the limits of control. Science and chaos in Jurassic Park. What happens when human ambition exceeds the limits of ethics? Jurassic Park is more than a visual spectacle. It is a profound study of the dangers of playing God. The concept seemed revolutionary, recreating dinosaurs that had been extinct for millions of years and displaying them as attractions in a theme park. But behind the scientific fascination, there was a web of errors that foreshadowed disaster. Genetic engineering, sold as magic, soon reveals its flaws, showing that science cannot completely predict or control nature. The most emblematic failure is the breakdown of the park's security systems. While visitors expect wonders, the dinosaurs find loopholes to escape. It is the beginning of a cycle of chaos and destruction. John Hammond, the visionary behind the park, finds himself powerless in the face of the consequences of his own creation. The initial arrogance of believing that everything could be controlled quickly crumbles, leading to a reflection on the limits of science and the uncontrollable power of nature. But the chaos is not limited to the broken enclosures. It infiltrates the very logic of dinosaur creation. The inclusion of DNA from other species to fill genetic gaps seems, at first glance, a brilliant feat. However, this genetic patch allows for unexpected adaptations, such as the creature's ability to change sex and reproduce. The park, which should be a masterpiece of control, becomes an unpredictable and self-sufficient ecosystem. This detail transforms Hammond's dream into a nightmare that he can no longer contain. One of the most revealing moments is Ian Malcolm's explanation of chaos. He anticipates that nature always finds a way to impose itself, even in the face of the most sophisticated attempts at human control. Malcolm is not just a voice of warning in the film. He represents Spielberg's critique of the obsession with technology as the solution to all problems. This philosophy permeates every scene of disaster in the park, reinforcing that absolute control is a dangerous illusion. As events unfold, the true horror emerges. It is not only the survival of humans that is at stake, but also the reflection on the role of science in society. Jurassic Park does not condemn scientific progress, but questions the irresponsibility of advancing without considering the consequences. The creation of the dinosaurs was not just an achievement, it was an act of hubris, an attempt to subdue nature which rebelled violently. In the end, the message is clear but disturbing. How far can we go before our creations turn against us? Jurassic Park leaves this question hanging in the air, inviting the viewer to reflect on the dangers of unbridled advancement. Chaos is not just a consequence in the park, it is a reflection of human choices in the real world. Jurassic Park, the dinosaur horror classic. How did a dinosaur movie become a timeless landmark in cinema? Since its release in 1993, Jurassic Park has redefined not only the science fiction genre, but also horror in cinema. Under the visionary direction of Steven Spielberg, the film transformed prehistoric creatures into symbols of fear, wonder, and mayhem. But what makes it so timeless is not just the dinosaurs themselves, but the way they were presented, real, menacing, and completely immersive. The introduction of the dinosaurs in the film is a suspenseful spectacle. Spielberg doesn't reveal them right away, but slowly builds the anticipation. When the Tyrannosaurus Rex finally appears, it dominates the screen with an almost otherworldly presence. It's not just its size or visual effects that impress, but the way it interacts with the characters, creating a sense of imminent danger. This approach elevated Jurassic Park from a simple adventure film to a horror classic. Another crucial factor is the balance between science and emotion. The film addresses complex themes such as genetics and bioethics, but never gets bogged down in technical explanations. On the contrary, it uses these elements to amplify the narrative, making it relevant and thought-provoking. The critique of human ambition and the desire to control nature is woven in a subtle but powerful way. This gives the film a depth that goes beyond the visual spectacle. The special effects, of course, are one of the pillars that support its iconic status. Spielberg combined state-of-the-art animatronics with revolutionary CGI, creating dinosaurs that looked real in every sense. This technological innovation not only impressed at the time, but set a new standard for the film industry. Jurassic Park was not just a film, it was an experience that transported the viewer to another world. But what really cemented the film as a classic was its ability to blend genres. It is not just science fiction or adventure, it is also a horror film, with suspense scenes that rival the greatest classics of the genre. The Velociraptor chase, for example, is a masterclass in how to create tension without relying on cheap scares. Spielberg managed to capture the primal fear of the viewer, something few films manage to do. In the end, Jurassic Park is not just a film about dinosaurs. It is a reflection on the impact of technology, human fragility in the face of nature, and the limits of progress. Its influence extends far beyond cinema, touching on issues that remain relevant today. And perhaps that is why it remains so powerful. After all, is the real monster in the dinosaurs or in human ambition? Velociraptors versus Tyrannosaurus Rex. What if you had to face the most lethal predators that ever roamed the earth? Who would you choose? Jurassic Park doesn't hold back when it comes to transforming two of the greatest icons of the dinosaur world into symbols of pure terror. On one side, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, a force of nature, immense and relentless. On the other, the Velociraptors, cunning, fast and strategic. This duality between brute force and deadly intelligence is one of the reasons why these creatures dominate the public's imagination to this day. The first appearance of the Tyrannosaurus Rex is a cinematic horror spectacle. The torrential rain, the screams of the characters and the terrifying roar of the creature create an almost apocalyptic atmosphere. However, what is truly frightening is not only the size of the T-Rex, but its unpredictability. It doesn't just chase on instinct, it destroys everything in its path, as if determined to show who is the true king of the park. Velociraptors, on the other hand, pose a completely different threat. They rely not on brute force but on a disturbing intelligence. The scene in which they hunt the children in the kitchen is a perfect example of this. They test doors, manipulate objects, and coordinate their attacks as if they were war strategists. Spielberg presents them not just as animals, but as predators with an almost human intent, which makes them all the more terrifying. The contrast between these creatures is explored throughout the film. While the T-Rex is a chaotic force, destroying everything in its path, the velociraptors operate as surgeons of fear, attacking with calculated precision. This dichotomy is not only fascinating, it is a reminder that danger takes many forms. In Jurassic Park, terror is not monolithic, but multifaceted, playing on different human fears. The climax of the film brings these forces together in an epic showdown. The velociraptor's final attack is dramatically interrupted by the triumphant entrance of the T-Rex. This moment isn't just a relief for the characters, it's a reaffirmation of the film's central theme. Nature always finds a way to restore its balance, even if it's brutal. Here the audience is confronted with the reality that in the kingdom of the dinosaurs, there are no heroes, only survivors. And when it's all over, one question remains: who is scarier, the brutal king or the ruthless strategists? Jurassic Park doesn't offer a definitive answer, but it does leave the audience pondering how different types of power can be equally terrifying. Steven Spielberg and the horror of Jurassic Park. How did Steven Spielberg turn a theme park into one of the scariest movies of all time? The Spielberg name was already synonymous with success before Jurassic Park, but it was with this film that he demonstrated his mastery of creating terror and suspense in a completely unexpected universe. What could have been just an adventure film became a cinematic masterpiece thanks to Spielberg's unique vision. From the beginning, Spielberg knew he wanted more than dinosaurs running around an island. He wanted to build tension to make the audience feel the fear of the characters. Each scene was designed to create an emotional roller coaster, alternating between moments of wonder and pure terror. The Tyrannosaurus Rex scene, for example, is a classic example of how he uses anticipation to amplify the impact. It's not the dinosaur itself that scares, but the growing sound of its footsteps and the small signs, like the shaking of the water. Spielberg also brought a unique humanity to the film, something often missing in horror and science fiction productions. He didn't treat the dinosaurs as monsters, but as living creatures with their own behaviors. This made the horror more visceral, as the audience didn't see the dinosaurs as generic villains, but as forces of nature. This detail is what makes scenes like the one with the velociraptors so terrifying. They are intelligent, almost sentient, and not just machines of destruction. Another of Spielberg's strengths was his practical approach to special effects. He combined hyperrealistic animatronics with cutting-edge CGI, creating dinosaurs that seemed alive. This choice not only gave the scenes more realism, but also made the terror palpable. The audience wasn't seeing computer-generated creatures. They were facing something that seemed to be right there, within reach. But Spielberg's greatest talent lies in his storytelling. He uses every character, every line of dialogue and every moment of silence to build an atmosphere of growing tension. Ian Malcolm, for example, is the voice of reason who anticipates disaster, while John Hammond represents blind ambition. Spielberg orchestrates these elements like a maestro, creating a symphony of fear and reflection. In the end, Jurassic Park is as iconic as it is terrifying because Spielberg didn't underestimate his audience. He knew that true horror isn't just in what's shown but in what's felt. And so he created a film that transcends its genre, remaining relevant decades later. How did he do it? Perhaps the answer lies in the film itself. Genius finds form. The horror of genetics in Jurassic Park. What if we could bring back the past, at a terrible cost? Jurassic Park plunges audiences into one of the most disturbing dilemmas of modern science: the power to manipulate DNA. The idea of recreating dinosaurs from their genetic material is fascinating, but it soon proves to be a double-edged sword. From the beginning, genetic engineering is presented not as a flawless triumph, but as an unpredictable force that confronts humanity with immeasurable consequences. The method used in the film to revive the dinosaurs is intriguing, but also fraught with ethical questions. Mixing dinosaur DNA with that of other species to fill genetic gaps is the basis for the entire premise. However, this creative solution generates unexpected consequences, such as the ability of dinosaurs to change sex and reproduce. Spielberg uses this idea to explore the danger of playing with forces beyond our understanding. Science here is both a gift and a curse. The scene in which Ian Malcolm discusses the concept of chaos is central to the narrative. He warns that even with the most sophisticated advances, nature cannot be controlled. This philosophy is personified in the dinosaurs, which defy any attempt at confinement. Spielberg constructs a narrative in which science is like a genie escaping from the bottle, and no human effort can put it back. The effects of this genetic manipulation go beyond the dinosaurs. They reflect a broader theme: human arrogance in its quest to dominate nature. Jurassic Park is not just about dinosaurs. It is a trenchant critique of the way we use science without considering the consequences. Each dinosaur that escapes and each deadly attack reinforces the idea that knowledge without responsibility is a threat. Moreover, the terror lies not only in the creatures, but in the reflection they provoke. The park, which should be a monument to progress, becomes a graveyard of human ambitions. Spielberg does not need to say it directly, but he makes it clear that the real threat is not the dinosaurs, but the human hands that brought them back. It's a reminder that science, without ethics, can be more dangerous than any predator. In the end, the question that resonates with the audience is, if you had the power to resurrect an extinct species, would you use it? Jurassic Park doesn't answer it, but it does make a point of showing that sometimes the greatest horror is confronting what it means to be human. How to survive the horror of Jurassic Park. Would you survive if you were thrown into a park full of prehistoric predators? The horror of Jurassic Park isn't limited to the dinosaurs. It extends to the desperate fight for survival in an environment where everything seems to be against you. Spielberg presents the park as a nightmare scenario, where every misstep could be your last. But if you were there, what would you do to survive? First, survival requires understanding the environment. The park, which was supposed to be a tourist attraction, becomes an uncontrollable jungle. Electric fences fail, safe trails turn into traps, and hiding is harder than it seems. Spielberg captures this sense of vulnerability masterfully, making the audience constantly wonder how they would react in a similar situation. The second point is to know the predators. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, for example, is guided by movement, as shown when the characters freeze as it passes. Velociraptors, on the other hand, with their terrifying intelligence, require more elaborate strategies. The tension increases as the characters learn these rules the hard way. The message is clear. Improvisation and adaptation are crucial to survival. But not everything depends solely on courage. The kitchen scene, where the children use intelligence and cunning to escape the velociraptors, highlights that survival is also a matter of strategy. Spielberg shows that moments of terror are not only about action, but about critical decisions. This involves knowing when to run, when to hide, and, above all, how to outwit predators. Another vital aspect is teamwork. In several scenes, the characters can only survive by joining forces. Whether by deactivating security systems or facing direct attacks, Spielberg reinforces the idea that no one survives alone. This group dynamic reflects not only the fight against the dinosaurs, but also against the psychological collapse that terror causes. Finally, Spielberg makes it clear that survival is not only physical but also emotional. The constant terror wears on the characters, and they are forced to confront not only the dinosaurs, but also their own fears. This extra layer of depth makes Jurassic Park more than just an action film. It's an exploration of what it means to be human in extreme situations. And at the end, the inevitable question: if you were in their shoes, would you make it out alive? Spielberg doesn't give easy answers, but he does deliver an experience that forces the audience to reflect on their own ability to face fear.